2 weeks ago, I went on a road trip of just under 2,000 kilometers to check out a few well-used luxury cars. The conditions that I witnessed were shocking. One could hardly come up with fictions that match. I hope that this story is entertaining and maybe educating. To begin with, I checked out 3 Audi A8L W12s from 2007, 8 and 9 respectively. 1 pre-facelift and 2 post-facelift. The first one was from 2007. At first glance, the car has good exterior condition with over 80% of panels still with the original paint. Inside, the seats are okay-ish, but the steering wheel is wrapped with the worst craftsmanship imaginable. Some buttons on it are inoperable as a result. Upon closer inspection, however, things went from bad to worse. All 4 tires are different and in poor condition, with one apparent refurbished used. Under the hood, the coolant reservoir is empty and black tar is found below the minimum on the dipstick. The seller claimed that he has replaced a T-joint in the coolant hose. The damage was obvious once I started the engine, which shook violently. There was an obvious chain slap and thick smoke came out the tailpipe too. When put in gear, there was also strong shudder. The engine had no power and the gearbox would not kick down, even though shifts were mostly smooth. My guess is that the last 1 or 2 owners made no effort to maintain the car, and a burst coolant hose led to overheating that caused massive cylinder scoring and possible head gasket failure. The torque converter is possibly kaput too. The seller agreed that the odometer reading of 160,000 kilometers is unreliable, and I think that the true value is between 250k and 350k. The car is junk. The second one was from 2008. This one has Bang & Olufsen audio and was the reason that I embarked on the road trip. It has 59k on the odometer, but the seller claimed that the true value is around 185k. In person, however, things fell apart quicker than a house of cards in a thunderstorm. There is absolutely no original paint whatsoever. Instead, feelers are everywhere. The paint condition is generally poor too. Even though the seller initially claimed that the car has no accident history, it is obvious that it has had front-end damage, with at least the radiator support replaced at some point. All 4 tires are different and in horrible condition, just like the first Audi. Inside, the reupholstered interior has fallen apart for at least the second time. Needless to say, the dashboard tweeters of the B&O system no longer rise, and unsurprisingly, keyless go has failed. The car is not all bad though, as its engine and transmission seem mostly fine, despite the general neglect that is suffered in the hands of the last few owners. One mechanical fault is the air suspension compressor, which was making a horrendous noise. I believe that the car's real mileage is closer to 590k than 59k. It is fixable, but only at the cost of a new entry-level Audi. The third was from 2009, also with B&O audio. Initially, I did not want to check it out because the asking price was well above the market average. After communicating with the seller, however, it turned out that he is asking for less now. It has over 90% original paint and a new set of tires, though 3 of them were installed with the inside facing out. Inside, the general condition is good, though only one of the dashboard tweeters rose up before immediately falling halfway down. Under the hood, both valve covers were leaking at a critical rate with strong oil burning smell. A worrying sign was the white creamy deposits under the oil filler cap, though this could just be condensation. In the test drive, the drivetrain seemed to shudder when the accelerator was released quickly. My guess is that the engine mounts are bad. The air suspension compressor was also running all the time, indicating a bad sensor, bad valve block, stuck solenoid, or weak compressor. The seller claimed that the car is one owner and the car's odometer reading of 200,000 kilometers is believable. Even though this car would make an okay-ish purchase, I was already turned off at this point, and I'm inclined to think that owners of W12 Audis are the furthest from car enthusiasts, and that maintenance is a lesson that some has missed. The lack of space under the hood also deterred me. Besides, all 3 cars had oil burning smell from the tailpipes. Even the last one did not escape from this fate. When I started the trip hoping to hand a W12 Audi, I then turned to a couple of Maserati Quattroporte S 4.2. These were about to turn the Audis to shame. The first was from 2010, but just after the engine number that received the valve train updates. Outside, it was wrapped, but there does not seem to be too much filler or obvious signs of accident damage. The tires were good too. The interior has been reupholstered, though apparently from a good shop with high-quality leather. Upon closer inspection, however, this car was riddled with issues. The mechanical release on the door handles of 3 doors failed. Both picnic tables were dangling and could no longer be propped up or held down. Releases on the armrest storage failed too, and the front right window no longer comes down, likely due to accident damage. Some interior trim pieces were also falling out. Under the hood, the engine has a new alternator. The cap on the brake fluid reservoir is cracked all the way through, resulting in contaminated brake fluid. What is great about Italian cars like this is that despite some neglect, and the engine is in fantastic condition with absolutely no sign of ills. Last but not least, the remote key was bad, and the car could only be locked and unlocked with the blade. But the trunk's lock cylinder is bad and could only be opened with the electronic release. This car has an odometer reading just over 110,000 kilometers, if I remember correctly, which is borderline believable. The absolute worst car that I have ever seen actually came with the highest asking price. Also from 2010, this one has a later build date. However, it has experienced considerably more abuse. On the outside, there is hardly any original paint, even though the seller claimed that the car has mostly original paint. Feelers are everywhere. Moreover, the car had front end and rear end accident damages, with most things in front of the strut towers replaced. The A-pillar might or might not have been cut. Worse still, the car most likely has been flooded, as rust can be found in places that are really unlikely to rust otherwise. It has 4 different tires of horrendous condition, and one shock was leaking. Just like the other car, the mechanical releases of the rear doors failed, and the front right window does not come down. Interior trim pieces are falling off too, but this car has not been reupholstered, and the leather has paint falling off. Some seat adjustments no longer work, neither does the all-important sport button or the exterior door mirrors. The steering wheel has possibly been replaced, but it is questionable whether the airbags have been connected or disabled. There were also wires hidden under the weather stripping, possibly for hidden GPS devices. Under the hood, there are clear signs of neglect and bad accident repair. Once started, all lights came on. The engine has a strong vacuum under the oil filler cap, indicating blocked PCV system or worn piston rings. The seller said that the engine light was for oxygen sensors, but I don't believe that both sensors can fail at the same time. The transmission light was also lit in red, with shudder and poor shift quality indicating at least low fluid level. The shocks were extremely firm, while the suspension felt horrendously loose. Before this trip, I was thinking about picking up an old luxury car, but I quickly realized that the local car culture is about showing off at the lowest cost before dumping on the next guy. Cars most attractive to this group of quote-unquote enthusiasts should be avoided.